This is the 40mm 2.5 by Viltrox for full frame cameras. I have it on the A7 III, and if you bought the A7 III used, you can get them for around $900, plus this lens is $160. So you're looking around $1,100 for an entire setup for full frame, which is absolutely insane because the A7 III is still great in 2024, and this lens is not bad, especially for the price that you're paying. In my opinion, starting at a 2.5 aperture or even further is going to be very beneficial in your way of finding out how to use composition and framing, because you're not relying on a very blurry background to use as a crutch. And I think a lot of people, including myself, end up doing that a lot and forget that you can crank it down to f8 or f16 or whatever to make a composition, rather than having just a blurry background to blow everything out and focusing so much on your subject. So in my opinion, that's where this lens is going to help you as a photographer stand out a little bit more and really push you to becoming a little bit better with the craft of photography. So as you can see, it is just plain Jane, no buttons at all. It has absolutely no aperture ring, no autofocus, manual focus, no function buttons. So that's kind of unfortunate, but it also is able to keep this package very light. It's very small, and it has a 2.5 aperture, which is great. But it does have like a warm tint to it, which is nice. So bare bones, and honestly, it's just a decent lens for the price that you pay for it. So in my opinion, I think that if you're a beginner and you have been using variable zoom lenses, or you've used some lenses that you haven't been too happy with, prime lenses is something that you've heard of several times, and it just means that you can't change the focal length. And having something like this is going to help you see the world a little bit differently and maneuver differently, because you don't have zoom to use as a crutch either. So having a prime lens is very beneficial, and having something like this is really nice because it's between 35mm and 50, the two most popular lenses in the world. And having something that squeezes right between there is very nice. And it is as close to the human eye as that we could possibly see. Recently, the 40mm has become extremely popular thanks to the Leica Q3 43 and the GR3X. These cameras are fantastic, and their focal length is just as good because they do show you the world a little bit differently, so much like we see it in everyday life. And I think this is really beneficial to capturing real moments, and whenever you look back at those, they feel a lot more real. So there's no distortion or a ton of compression that makes you think that it was shot on something obscure. It does feel very organic and authentic, in my opinion. The competitor to this would be the Sony 40mm 2.5, which is around $530, whereas this one is around $160. So we're looking at a really big price difference here for the same focal length, probably not as good as the Sony. If you're looking for a 40mm and you don't want to spend a bunch of money, but you want to know what the focal length is going to be like, I would recommend doing something like this so you don't come out so much in your pockets for something that you may not like. And having something like this just to throw in your bag, travel, portraits, documentary, street photography is going to be a big one for this one. As you see the photos on my screen, I took these in Chicago and in Nashville, and I had a really good time with it. There are no really great flares, so the characteristics just really aren't there for me for this particular lens. They're 27mm 1.2 for the APS-C. Chef's kiss, it was great. This one does control flares very well, so it's a good thing for a lot of people. It is very sharp at 2.5. I misfocus sometimes. That's a problem for me. But if you're shooting street and stuff like that, I mean, I'm shooting at f8, so you kind of don't really deal with it. But whenever you're shooting portraits in a very controlled environment, you never miss. It is good. But whenever things are going really fast towards you, I tend to miss here and there. So in my opinion, this lens is pretty much made for beginners who want to jump into prime lenses, people that don't want to travel with heavy lenses, or people that just like to travel a lot and have a versatile lens that doesn't have to have a 1.8 aperture. It's a decent lens. It's not great by any means or any stretch of the imagination, but it does get the job done. It is inexpensive. It's not weather sealed, just so you know that. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about this lens. I hope you enjoyed the photos that I took with it. I really did enjoy working with Viltrox to shoot some images on this lens. And I appreciate you guys watching this video. As always, and until next time, peace.